Go. Okay, call meeting order at 6 o'clock. Adopt the agenda. Any errors or omissions or additions? Hearing none, all in favor, Councilor Warwick. Carried. Delegation, Big House Car Wash.
Okay, well, we're just saying, I'm not really a podium person, so is everybody okay if I just sit here and speak?
You can sit on the chair here, Tammy, just so we can hear you.
Yeah.
I would like the podium, I think, myself.
So, good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor, Dan Auburn. Thank you very much for providing us this opportunity to come forward and bring forward our concerns regarding South Municipal Road. And thank you for your patience and grace in having to defer to this meeting rather than last month based on unexpected situation, but thank you. So as Mr. Norber noted in his report last month, Kyle and I met with him briefly to introduce our concerns regarding the South Municipal Road and to learn about the initial steps and what the appropriate process is to work with the town of Hanna to start finding solutions for this problem. So here we are. Now, when I speak today and I speak about the condition of the road, I'm referring to the condition that's in those pictures. Like right now, it's nice and graveled and dry. It looks good. I'm referring to when it looks like this throughout the year. So the messy rutted conditions of South Municipal Road obviously has direct impacts on our business as a business owner. That's common sense. Doesn't seem really hard to explain that people don't want to pull out of a car wash and drive into that and drive out. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that today because I actually feel that there's a bit of a bigger picture too, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. Obviously, as a business owner, loss of revenue is never a good thing and we want to address it. We have a number of customers that come in to complain about the road. Actually, many of them don't come in to complain. Many of them stop us on the street, in the grocery store, at local events, whatever. We'll say that they haven't been in recently because the road's so bad. The ones that complain directly in the car wash are actually typically visitors from out of town that have pulled off the highway to wash and then come out, wash, come out to that, and then they come back and they definitely let us hear how they feel. I think that speaks to a bigger issue that we're having people pull out of town. I think it's safe to say that they probably won't be pulling back in again to do this again based on the conditions of that road. So Councillor Bodine touched on this at the February meeting, but what the February 27th ECA article failed to capture when it spoke about my presentation was that the road is an ongoing issue and causes frustrations for multiple businesses, not just ours. So I've spoken to a number of business owners and representatives that are along South Municipal Road. And all of them overwhelmingly stated that, yes, they want to see improvements on the road. And now, no, before you ask, I did not speak directly to Mayor Pavischuk, as I feel that this puts him in a bit of an awkward position and that we can provide the feedback and draw the picture without having to put him in that position. We can have this conversation regardless. So it's not just Big Al's that has concerns. In fact, during a conversation with Mr. Minnick from Hanna Motor Products, and he has said, absolutely, you can use my name and he's here in spirit, is that he has been having ongoing issues and has lodged complaints about the road for over 20 years since the inception of his business. So 20 years. And I found from a number of other business owners talking along the road that there have been multiple complaints brought to the town of Hanna about this road that we are by far not the first to come and bring it to, I guess, council's attention or office attention. I'm not sure. I don't know details, but we are definitely not the first to raise the issue. So the condition of the road, as you see in the picture, is not solely due to a water haul project during uncooperative weather. There's multiple factors at play. One factor is that this road has now seen an increase in traffic over the last 20 years. With the addition of Tin City, Coreg, Westview Co-op, and additional services that Pine Ridge Supplies now offers, which are courier services and propane filling, there's a marked increase in users on this road. There's more than there was 20 some years ago when people first started complaining. Our conversation here tonight is not to cast negative implications on those businesses at any means. Increased traffic is a good problem to have. That's a problem we want to have in this town. We want it. It obviously means benefits to the local economy. But the natural consequence of more traffic on the road is more wear and tear on the road, and therefore more issues with the road. That's just a natural progression. The weather being uncooperative. Yeah, that tends to happen in our area. The pictures that you guys are seeing here Were not taken during a 1 in a 100-year rain event. That was taken during some natural thaw that happens throughout the winter. It's going to happen here again is when this next round comes to melt. It'll happen if it rains hard in summer. It's going to happen multiple times throughout the year. One of the truckers I spoke to that regularly uses the road, and he stated that it often gets so bad that he quote unquote just pins it to get through. He's not driving a Kia car, he's driving an 18-wheel truck. So you can imagine when we have multiple truckers just pinning it up and down that road, it becomes just a nasty mess. When we met with CA Norbert, he asked us what we would like to see done. What is our solution? So if that's the question that's on the table tonight, our answer is, well, fix it and pave it. But I understand that that's not how it is. I mean, we're realistic, pragmatic individuals. We understand that there's logistical and financial constraints to just paving it being a solution. Our immediate ask is that the concern be taken seriously and not slept off for another 20 years. We don't want to see it shuffled from council to council, CAO to CAO, until it just gets forgotten about again until somebody gets their ire up. We would like to see someone tasked specifically with looking into this, to determining a realistic, actionable plan for solving the problems along this road and improving the condition of the road. To have this fixed properly, like paved, we understand that it has to go into a budget, a future year's budget. Okay, so that's great. So what does that look like? When can that happen? What is a reasonable timeline for that to happen? Does this require partnerships with the businesses along the road? So these are the things that we would like someone to look into and actually have answers to. In the interim, what mitigated measures can we look at for temporary solutions? For example, if this condition of the road at this point right here is due to a large water haul, well, do we put in road bans? Do we not allow those large trucks to haul water? There are other water stations outside of town. Do we implement something like that? Like, what are some of the solutions? Special areas does work maintaining the road on the east end of the road, like towards area. Typically, they do not come up past Pioneer Supplies and to the west end. I guess my question is, why not? Is that a conversation we can have with special areas? Has anybody asked them to maintain the entire length of the road? I don't know. The town of Hanna has access to a large pile of fill. Can that be used to help build up the road, pack it down, build it up? I know I'm not a road engineer, but there are some possible solutions that maybe somebody can look at and find out if there are pragmatic solutions. One topic I didn't cover is the Visitor Information Center. Hanna's VIC has nothing but potential to engage visitors and community members. There are many times throughout the year that people choose not to go to the VIC if it looks like this. If I was a visitor driving into town and I saw the visitor sign that told me to turn there and head down that road right there like that, especially if I'm from the city, I'm probably thinking twice about going to the visitor center. And I think that's completely counterproductive to all of the work that the town staff and their partners, such as Harvest Sky, have done to try to draw visitors into town, is deterring them with a road like that. This past summer, when the infrastructure upgrades were happening on Main Street, the town recognized that the impact of those construction activities had direct impacts on our Main Street businesses. This council heard those concerns, they understood those concerns, and they worked with the businesses to try and find measures to help. That was a temporary construction period, and yet it was recognized that there was impacts to businesses. What I've heard from business owners along the road that I've talked to is that for over 20 years, people have been complaining about this road and nothing has been done or heard. So I guess our ask is that we be taken seriously and that the expectation is that we can work together to find solutions to this in the long term, not just keep adding it. So that's our ask. That's my presentation. That's it.
Well, I'll speak as a business person on that road or the mayor. I've been there for 13 years. That was the worst type road I've ever been by far. The special areas did make an attempt to grade it, but with it being, I believe the term is soil cement, is that what they use on their burn? Yeah. It's virtually impossible to do any maintenance on it. It was a bad, with the rent runoff, with the frac job that was going on. It was just a bad week and a half, basically, is what it was.
I'm not disagreeing. I agree. I think that's the worst I've ever seen it as well. But it has something to do with whatever they put on it last year. Is that what you're saying? It wasn't. They didn't gravel it. It was something else.
From the top, it's all oil, and from the bottom of the hill there, from the visitor station, that's all soil cement. And up on top there, it got packed in there with 6 to 8 inches of ice. We tried to scrape it, but with our equipment, we didn't want to go through the base and rip up all the oil.
And fair enough.
And so because that's basically part of my job. I do most of the maintaining out there, because the special plates I got. And when I got that bad, like we found with all the traffic, you see the pile of mud that I hauled off of there, we did what we could there at the time, but like I said, right when I was melting, that was the worst. Like it just wouldn't.
Oh, we will agree, absolutely. I 100%
I
agree.
know, I
So,
trouble
but I guess
every day.
that speaks to my point about Band-Aid
Yeah.
solutions, right? Is that we are looking for that long-term solution. Mr. Minnick did share with me that when he initially started his project to build Hanna Motor Products 20 years ago, he was told by the town of Hanna that they would both install a sewer line and pave that road if he brought his business in. I feel like that's a 20-year promise that has not worked out. Perhaps we can revisit it. So, yeah, I'm not like, I understand you guys would not were here 20 years ago,
No,
but
no,
that's my
It
point,
hasn't, right, and it should be bringing it.
right? And
yeah, but it has been brought forward. You know, I recall bringing it forward last term because my husband's business is down there as well. And it's always been an issue, from all the people on the other side.
Mr.
as
Howard
well.
says he's approached the town multiple times.
Exactly, and so even when I approached it, they said, well, it'll cost too much. You know, and it would mean that more taxes would be charged to the businesses and that sort of thing for that they have to take it right down to the base and rebuild the base back up. Is that correct? You know,
There is no base.
well then, yeah, so establish a base to begin.
I'm not disputing that it's gonna
To work
cost
on,
a
but-
significant amount of money. That's why we're saying, like, can we look at the
But
actual plan in the
Once
future?
it is, well, then it should last for years, but
I know what we pay in taxes for
Mhm.
commercial taxes. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that Hanna Motor Products pays significantly more than we do based on their footprint. Other businesses probably pay quite a bit of taxes.
Mhm.
That's what our taxes go for, is it not? Is the upkeep and infrastructure, like
Well-
improvement to infrastructure, like that is part
I
of what
have
taxes. So
sorted out, I can't even tell you how many times that I don't understand how they haven't put sewer in on these roads because the businesses on there are paying
not really,
a
no.
very large percentage of the entire town is paid on that road because of the size of the lots and the value of the businesses. So, trust me, it comes up. I'm constant because I don't get it.
And now that, like, so as Mr. Dover pointed out when we met, he's like, the only thing you can do is start the conversation and get the ball rolling and start making it happen. So that's what we're doing, is hopefully now it's formally on minutes, it's formally out there. I can't speak to what is said or done 20 years ago, obviously, but I can speak to what is said and done now, right? And
It's been formally on minutes for years.
so I guess maybe we need to start to
Nothing has been
enforce
done.
against business
The
owners.
interesting thing about that road, and I mean, when I first got elected as mayor, I went and spoke with just about everybody on that road, and there's a variety of wants and perceived, well, wants, needs. Hanna Motor Products, well, before you guys had it, when Brian had it, and the water treatment plant wanted pavement, and the water treatment plant pavement was for basically the congealers and stuff like that, for no like do well with the duct. Mr. Howery wanted to drop the speed limit down to 15 kilometers an hour. Tom Marshall didn't care about the road, he wanted to put a sewer in. And so everybody has their own, I don't want to call it idea of what should be done and how it should be done. And I'm not ducking, I agree, but there's lots of things that have happened in the past and we can only work on rectifying them. I guess as a business owner, I'm not prepared to take a debenture for payment fund my property.
But I also look at it as a business owner. We've looked at doing upgrades and improvements on our own property, but I'm hesitant to spend any dollars doing that if that's what still is gonna look like on the main road.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend $75,000 paving our exit.
Yeah.
If that's still what it looks like, that's
I
completely,
know there was.
which is an improvement to the property, but it would obviously probably impact our taxes.
Well, yeah, you're gonna get taxed more too.
Yeah, but
I
I'm not
know
gonna
Brent
do it.
was in talks of special areas, they did a project in Sybilburn.
Yeah.
They worked out well with some of the millings, they found a compound that actually worked. The problem with the project in Sybil was it hasn't had the type of traffic that we had. So I don't know that it'll work for us, but they are, I know Brad's been in talks with special areas, as far as upgrading that into some manner. The biggest problem with, like I said, the road is from, well, basically the stop sign down to the bottom of my block is, there's a foundation there. But from there to the east, there is no road.
No fun, and there's no ditches anymore. It's widened on its own. It's become wider over the
Yeah.
years. There's no
That's
ditches
the
for it to
whole
properly
thing.
drain off.
We got a dish like that. And the other big issue is the trees.
Mhm. So I don't know if it's too late to include this, or I'm happy to leave it, or I can forward it to Winona, CEO in Auburn, but during these conversations, Krista Richardson with Corey actually ran out and she had conversations with all of the neighbors as well, and she put it in writing as to what, like you said, what everybody kind of wants to see, what they want. So I'm happy to leave this here. It's her email that she summarized for me, but it shows that it's not just us complaining about loss of revenue. It's more than that.
No, it's everybody done.
Oh, yeah.
They've all tried and nothing has ever been done.
So awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tammy, for your
Yeah, really
work on
bad.
this. And your advocacy.
Can we get a motion to thank Tammy from Big House Car Wash for the presentation and the current condition of South Municipal Road? Everybody's got their hand up. Council Crawl, I seem to miss you all the time. All in favor? Carry. Thanks, Tammy. And a medical clinic.
Hello. Hello. I'm Wendy Ford. I'm one of the doctors in Hanna. I work at the medical clinic and I also have a role as the area zone medical director with Alberta Health Services, covering the area of Stettler, Three Hills, Drumheller, Hanna, Coronation Consort, and Castor. And so this summer, a number of you probably noticed that there was some rolling closures in our surrounding emergency departments. We saw on social media, Stettler had days where they were not open. Coronation is only open 3 days a week right now. Consort has been closed, their emergency department now for a couple of years. And so we're really concerned about that and want to make sure that the people of our town have continuous access to healthcare, including emergency services. And so I just wanted to update you guys today on what the situation is with our staffing and what we're trying to do to make sure that we do have healthcare for everybody 24/7. We do still have 4 physicians at the Hanna Medical Clinic. The only person who actually works full-time there is Dr. Madawi. The rest of us have other responsibilities, myself with my administrative job that I do on Thursdays, so I'm not in the clinic on Thursdays. Dr. Anawatpur works 4 days a week and Dr. Hanna works 3 days a week there. But we do have the 4 doctors. You may have heard complaints from various residents that no one is accepting new patients at this point in time. So people who are moving to our community cannot currently get a family doctor in our community, and that's because we are simply full. Part of that problem is that when residents of the community leave, they can't find a family position where they move to, and we don't get to fire people just because they don't live here. So a number of our patients now don't reside in Hanna. Sometimes this is the teenagers that graduate and move on, and sometimes it's whole families that leave and come and see us from places like High River, Calgary, Red Deer, because they can't find doctors there. We did talk about the idea of recruiting a 5th physician to Hanna, but what we would require in order to do that is approximately 500 to 700 unattached patients to provide at least 4 days a week for a new physician. And we don't have that many unattached patients in our community. We just don't. We are keeping track if we have people who are saying that they want a doctor, and we're less than 100 people. That's not enough to add a new physician to our community practice at this time.
Can I just ask this question?
Of course.
So we have, I know, and again, we got spoiled for a long time. Book an appointment on full Monday and have an appointment Tuesday or Wednesday. So is the workload of our doctors now to the point where maybe they could share some of those patients or offload some of those patients?
What do you mean by share or offload?
Well, so like, for example, Dr. McGowie is overworked. Would he be willing to drop 50 patients?
Would they be willing to drop him is the bigger question.
I don't know
Right.
that, and that's, yeah.
Yeah. So in order to try to support this, we've reached out to the University of Calgary and asked them if they would consider sending us resident doctors, who are people who are training in family medicine, but have not yet finished their, I'll call it apprenticeship. And so we had our first one this December through February, and he was exceptional. We got excellent feedback from him. We renovated a room at the clinic to support him so that he would be able to run kind of a mini practice while he's with us. And so we've opened it up and asked if we could get additional residents, and we're getting another one April through June and another one in August through October. And so that's what we as a clinic are doing, committing to educating those residents to try to support additional services. And many people did go and see that resident doctor for primary care and emergency services, and we're really pleased. So we're trying to do that.
Do you mind?
Of course, go ahead.
Do you have accommodation for them? Is that an issue?
The Rural Physician Action Plan, or RPAP, they provide housing for the resident physicians, just like they do for the clinical clerks, which are final year medical students when they come out here. So it's funded for them. They have a house that they rent just north Hanna. And sometimes their residents or the clerks will stay in the homes of local residents, and RPAP supports payments to those people for the upkeep of those homes.
Okay, I saw an email that you were looking for more places.
They probably are, but because we now have medical students and residents coming, and they won't house opposite gendered learners in the same home, they want them to have their own space. And so they probably are looking for more homes. Yeah.
Thank you.
The hospital, we continue to have 10 beds plus the 2 that we recently reopened. For inpatients. A lot of our beds right now are being blocked by people who are waiting nursing home care. It's just the demographics. Our baby boomers have reached an age where more of them are requiring nursing home care. But for the most part, 12 beds is a very suitable amount for our community to be able to support the people that need care in our community. There's always the chance that we won't have a bed available, and then we transfer our patients to surrounding communities such as Drumheller, Stettler, Three Hills. And we always try to take them back to our facility when we're able to. There's been a new program to recruit internationally educated nurses and nurses who have moved to Canada and then received some education here. We have some challenges with accommodation for them, and I'll talk a little about that at the end of request for you guys as far as accommodation listings. But these new nurses do appreciate the kindness and support they get from the community in trying to incorporate them. They often come from different cultures and different languages, and we're trying to make them feel as welcome as we can to support the nursing end. In response to this shortage and the fears that we have of closures, we created restarted an attraction and retention committee, mainly headed by myself and Eileen Clow. We're meeting quarterly to try to figure out what we can do to keep the healthcare workers that we have and try to recruit new ones successfully. And so we've just started that up. Ken Hansen's working with us as well. And we're going to be meeting with the ladies auxiliary and special areas to try to make sure that we have some access to funds, because we do need something in order to move forward with some of our initiatives. So you may have seen in the news that Alberta Health Services is being separated into multiple pillars. It's a little bit confusing for all of us. It does not change any of the services or the people that we have in Hanna. It will more affect the administrative end of healthcare, but not the ground level access to right now. Some people's email addresses may be changing, but that's as complex as it is right now. When you hear a term corridors of care, they're trying to shift around some of the administrative patterns to match where referrals go. The only change that I've seen in my area is likely in the northeast part of my area, which is Provost, which doesn't quite fit with the area that I take care of well. They're too far. Edmonton is their referral zone. They may be shifting out of my area, and Oyen may be added. So that fits better with special areas as a governing body, but not so good because they go down to Medicine Hat. You're never going to convince someone to Oyen or Red Deer. That's kind of a strange referral pattern, but that's what you may see shifting, but I don't think the average person will notice any changes. One of the challenges we've had with some of these new residents is not necessarily that we can't provide primary care for them, but there's an expectation that a hospital means that we provide all services possible. And so we're wondering how we can better communicate to new residents to our community that we do not deliver babies in Hanna. We do not have specialty services such as cardiology or internal medicine here. There's a lot of frustration. People will move without access to transportation and just assume that these services are available in our community. And I'd like them to be able to find out more readily that those aren't, that isn't the situation. So they aren't getting mad at the service providers that they can't have these particular things here, and be aware that moving here means you're going to have to travel for ultrasound. You're going to have to travel for the dermatologist, the cardiologist, your CT scans, and don't get mad at us about that. So can we make sure that people know that before they choose to move here? Yes.
So why don't we have those services?
Because we're not a large enough community to support a specialty service like that.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to see. So for obstetrics, for example, the last baby born in the Hanna hospital was in 2010. We do not have enough babies delivered here to maintain the skills of the providers and the nurses. There's just not enough babies born. We're no longer a community that has 4 or 5 babies for every single family. We have 2 or fewer, and that's not enough in order to support the skills of the physicians and the nurses that are here. We rely on those services being available in places like Drumheller and Stettler, where you have access to an anesthesiologist for an epidural if you want that, where you have access to a surgeon if you need a C-section. People aren't willing to accept the risk of delivering in a small center with unskilled providers without access to those services. There's also a lack of what I would call a uncomplicated pregnancy now. Women are older and have bigger health issues, and we don't want to make the risk of delivering them in our community unsafely. And so they go to a larger center. A cardiologist wouldn't have enough work in a community like Hanna. They need a larger center. Yes.
What about something a little less complicated, like ultrasound? I mean, the skill set and the expertise outside of that, you need virtually one person that is skilled to do the ultrasound and a place to do it. Is that not a specialty that we could attract people here to?
You would have to obtain an ultrasound machine and be willing to update that technology. You would have to have access for those images to be read by a radiologist externally. You'd have to make sure that you were able to maintain the skills and the busyness of that individual. And so they have at one time had portable ultrasound in Hanna, but the machines have changed to a point that they don't travel as easily as they once did. You would have to have a permanent option here. I don't see our population growing to the point that we could support a formal ultrasound in Hanna.
I guess the thing that the community, and we have this conversation often, instead of everybody going here to the bigger centers, is having people come here. I mean, the traffic, the parking, all the rest of it. We have lots of seniors that can't drive to those centers. They don't want to maneuver around the bigger centers. And yet if they had to come to Hanna, I mean, there's, less traffic. There's no parking fees. There's a lot of advantages of it. And that's kind of, some thoughts of some, individuals within our community of what that might look like.
I wish I could say that it could happen and we could have every imaging in every facility, but I just don't see it happening. It's hard enough to recruit technologists to places like Drumheller and Stettler. You ask them to move to even smaller communities or commit to stay there. What happens if we invest in a machine, we get somebody here and then they leave? The challenge of recruiting someone to provide those services is already so challenging. And if you're in a facility that does surgery and obstetrics with your ultrasound, then you have access to additional images and get to use the breadth of your skills for that.
Thank you. I understand that. It's unfortunate, but
It is.
I mean, we like to dream that we could be, the hub of one of those expertise or, those healthcare providers that, would attract others to come to our community, be beneficial in some way. But I understand there's a lot more to it than that too.
There is nothing that would stop certain specialties that don't require hospital services or equipment to open up an office in Hanna. A dermatologist, for example, if they were from Hanna or wanted to live here, they could open up a practice here without any difficulties and bill the government like anybody else would. And so no one's stopping them from coming here, but the patient base in this community is so small, you would rely on referrals from other locations. And I just don't see that happening, but there's nothing that stops them.
We used to have ultrasound, we used to have dialysis, we used to have up to 74 babies a year,
There isn't 74 babies born to Hanna residents a year anymore. We just don't have that volume.
We had all that.
Yes, we
And then
did.
when you regionalized, we lost everything.
I don't think you can say that our obstetrics is because of regionalization. If people aren't having that many babies, if you look at the kindergarten classes, you get 2 classes of 15. We're having 30 babies a year in this region. 30 babies a year is not enough to maintain skills of the nurses that have to be up to date or the physicians. We would each need at least, I would say, 20 babies a year ourselves, and you can't guarantee that. I think obstetrics is a separate issue. When you look at things like dialysis, moving to a regional center, a lot of that comes from the specialty of the service providers. It's one thing to have the equipment. It's another to have the skills to know how to use it and to maintain those skills. So I can't really tell you exactly why that happened. That was well before my time here. A lot of the things when we think about services like surgery, Hanna lost surgery when they lost the provider. If you don't have someone who can do it, then you can't maintain that service. And technology for surgery has changed dramatically. It's no longer a full surgeon opening up a large incision on someone's body. It's laparoscopic surgery, which requires more instruments, smaller and fancier and more expensive. And you can't maintain that in a small center. So I think our main focus here is to maintain primary care, which is family medicine access, lab and x-ray access for us, and a really robust, if we can, EMS service to make sure that we can get patients to the larger centers when they need to go. I want to be realistic with our expectations and not disappoint people by not being able to provide services I know we can't.
We got one question there, like what you want us to put in our town news, you know, what we offer them? No, don't offer, because then like.
I think that that's reasonable, yes.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a way that people can look and not just see, well, Hanna has a hospital and assume that a hospital means what it does at the Peter Lougheed in Calgary. People realize that we have a 12-bed hospital with lab and x-ray Monday to Friday. We have an emergency department, which thankfully right now is open 24/7, and we have a family medicine clinic.
Yeah.
But if they're expecting beyond that, they're going to be disappointed.
So literally, that's what we should be putting in our.
If you have a welcome package, or if there's information about on the town website about what is available here, I think that that would be important to include. Yeah.
It is there.
Yeah.
However, I've been contacted over the years more than once by somebody from Alberta Health Services that wants this big laundry list. And from an economic development and attraction perspective, not doctor related, but industry related, the more you can offer your employees, the more attractive it is to the town if you have good health service. That's just one, education's the other. So yeah, of course, you want to look like you can, manage these things, and maybe you can manage these things, just not as an intensive a level as what is required for some.
I think it's reasonable to let people know, yes, we have a family practice and we have a hospital. And I love your idea of saying, let's not list what we don't have, but list what we do have, just so that people have a reference point. It's not a requirement. It's just, this is what we're noticing is people are moving here, assuming they can do something that they can't. And then they are limited in their services. And they either can't stay here or they present to our hospital with something that we can't manage and should never have had to manage because they weren't able to access care here and chose not to get it at all. So
I have a question. Harbor Sky Economic Development Corporation is looking at, whether they apply for a grant for some marketing. And I wonder then if the medical clinic and the hospital would be interested in being involved in, say, a video explaining what we have. This is a rural hospital. It isn't the same as a, large town, something that gives them something, because not everybody learns a different way. I love visual because then it's a lot easier. You can see and relate it to than just reading it straight through or hearing it or whatever. Would you guys be interested in something like that if it were an option?
it's a little bit tricky when you try to join together the clinic and the hospital because they are run by very different organizations, even though we work together.
Yeah.
AHS, or Alberta Health Services, has a very robust media department and communications department, which has to oversee anything that comes out with that name on it. And so it's a lot trickier to make those kinds of things in an Alberta Health Services facility. The clinic, yes, something like that. And we'd always welcome a relationship where we try to advertise our clinic. We're not looking for anybody for our clinic right now, but in the future, we certainly can. A lot of those types of videos have been created by RPAP, advertising various rural careers, and they may not need to be replicated in Hanna, but referenced so that people could go and look at RPAP and see these videos that exist about types of services and what the work life is like in small communities.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So some of the things that we're asking for from the town is to consider with the accommodation issues that we have with new people who are moving to town for healthcare services. They're really struggling to find rooms to rent, apartments, whole houses to rent when they come here. Is it possible to maintain a list of those types of residences that are available or people who might be interested in renting to a healthcare worker so that we're able to offer them that? We have had people who have tried to interview here for nursing positions, not physicians, who have been unable to come because they couldn't find accommodations for them and their families. And we don't want that to be a barrier. Perhaps there are people who would be willing to rent to healthcare workers that maybe aren't advertising it, would be willing to let it be known, and then we could provide that list to people.
There used to be a few individuals that had a list of a number of people that were available for shutdown workers. And then you'd contact them and put you on the list. And so something similar to that might be of value.
It'd be ideal whether people had something they were willing to rent out for a month or two while people first get settled and then look for a more permanent house. Or if it's something people want long-term, just so we can say there is a list here and we can help you with that.
Council Cole?
Maybe we could ask, Councilor Murphy, isn't the lodge got a one floor or
They have-
5 rooms or something?
Not as many here. We only have one room here in Hanna. Oyen Lodge made 2 or 3. Consort has 5 or 6. And all of the nursing staff have been able to stay, and it's been wonderful. But they only did one here. And that's as far as they went. But to furnish them is quite expensive if we try to get donations and things, but that's certainly something. They don't have a lot of rooms available in Hanna right now, which is great. Because at one point it was more than half empty.
Yeah.
So, but as a newly licensed realtor, I must say that that's one thing I knew that potentially was lacking for certainly people who come to move here to buy, that I will include that in any discussions I have with my clients, that's really important that they know the condition of, I mean, it's a great hospital, wonderful staff. It's an 18-hour wait in a hallway, but we don't have all the services here.
So if we're able to organize a list, then do you want to deliver to you or put
Our
somebody?
contact person for housing of new hires is Angela Grott up at our hospital.
And when you talked about the specialty clinics, a few years ago, my son blew out a knee. We went to sports medicine, went on a list for an MRI, and we were told that if we were willing to go on a short list, we would get a phone call. So we left Calgary, we made it back to Bicycle, got a phone call that there was an appointment available in Banff at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I said, we will take it. So we drove to Banff, got a hotel room, and the lady says, you're from Hanna. And I said, yeah. And she said, we have people from Calgary that will come here because it's an hour away.
Yeah.
And I went, well, that's part of our problem then. It's if you're willing to move and accommodate, I mean, it's as much as a pain in the butt it is, it's doable. It's just frustrating, and I've used this before. It's the same distance from Red Deer to Hanna as it is from Hanna to Red Deer. And the conversation I've had with Minister LaGrange about that is, we keep transferring to the corridor, and yet the corridor is full. And I keep saying, like, you're building a new hospital to open up another 150 beds. I said, I can find you 150 beds in 15 minutes. We just need staff. And she always looks at me and kind of rolls her eyes because she knows exactly where I'm going to go with it. So it's frustrating, and I understand it, but we just have to change the mindset a little bit to what we need to do. When you talk about recruiting doctors, there was a young or nurse, I should say, in Bonneville was taking her, and forgive me for my lack of terminology, but her second year intern or whatever it was, and she's from Alliance. There's no hospital, right? So I did the big pitch and she said, well, it wouldn't be too far to Hanna. What's an hour? So, but yeah, it's really frustrating for us out here because we travel. That's just what we do. And it's when people complain, like you said, the 18-hour waiting list, I hear John Heller's got people coming out of Calgary, so we don't have to wait and filling their system. So it'd be nice to have, and I don't know what we have to do. There is no magic wand. I understand that, but just if we could get something out here, be some type of specialty, be it a hip or I know Lamont did cataract surgery for quite a while.
That's not going to happen in Hanna. So it's lovely to think that we're going to end up with cataract surgery, but you need an OR that's fully functional, which we don't have. You need an anesthesiologist, which we don't have, and you need to have the equipment to do those procedures.
No, I'm
and
just
you
using
need to
that as
have
an example.
An ophthalmologist to come out here and do a cataract. And so we often think, well, we have an OR, we have that space, but the reality of the number of services you need additionally to the room is huge.
Yeah.
You need enough OR nurses to run it. We can barely have enough nurses right now to staff an emergency department. Yeah. And so I don't want a community to take this huge goal and say, we're going to have surgery here. We're going to have a visiting orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
It just takes too much.
Okay.
And as you say, we get frustrated sending people to the corridor, but to recruit people to a small town and transfer everybody in, we just can't maintain that And so what we want to focus on is being able to access the specialty services when we need them, which brings me to my final point for you guys, which is the EMS transfers. They are in shortage, much like the rest of us, and we're noticing a concerning trend where people are using ambulance services for transport when they don't actually need an ambulance crew. And so we call this non-medical transport. So an example would be somebody who's going for a lung function test, who's not attached to oxygen, who has a walker, but they have no family to take them while they're admitted into hospital. You're now taking an ambulance for 6 hours out of our community. And we really don't like seeing that happen. But when we have no other option for that patient, that's what happens. And it's really stressful when you're sitting in emergency with someone who needs an ambulance and you're waiting for it to come from Consort to bring your patient to Red Deer because the ambulance has gone on a non-emergent transfer. And so they do have an opening for what we call non-medical transport vendors. So someone in the community that is interested in providing transport of stable patients who do not require any paramedic or EMS crew of any sort. They are looking for people in our community willing to take on that contract. And so we would like to.
Is that something like what Lynx did? Like I used to take some patients from Lynx, that needed to go to see.
This would be
Like,
specifically patients to and from the hospital.
Oh,
Stable patients
yeah.
that have an appointment of some sort outside of Hanna. They don't need an ambulance or an ambulance crew that we would have sent with family,
Yeah.
but family either can't or won't take them.
Your contract with AHS?
Yes, it's a contract with the AHS where you provide your own vehicle and you provide your information and they schedule transfers and then you get reimbursed through Alberta Health Services as a contractor. And they're looking for someone in Hanna that's interested in doing that. And with the number of people here saying, I don't have a job, but I have a vehicle, it's an excellent opportunity. Yes, there are requirements. You have to have various things in place. I don't know what those details are. But if people would like to express an interest in that, Angela Broad again at the hospital is our medical lead on that. And we would really like it to get out there that we're looking for this person because that would be a benefit to that person, I believe, as far as a source of income, as well as our community.
And a couple platforms, you can definitely push that up for you.
That's what we would like.
Yeah, so to sort of just expand on that maybe a little bit, is that, like, is there certain hours, or are we saying you just kind of on call day or night to just?
The availability is going to be variable depending on the person. Most scheduled non-emergent transfers happen Monday to Friday between say 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. because that's when all those things are open.
Okay.
And I don't know the details of the contract. It would just have to be someone who would be willing to be called. We say, hey, we have this nursing home resident who got admitted up to Stettler and they just need someone to take them.
Right.
And so if you can do that, then you can submit your bill and there you go, you get paid in order to take this patient up there. It's never medically unstable people that require EMS crews. It's all stable people, like I said, that we would have sent with their family, but either they don't have one or they can't or won't take them.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any other questions
I
for
was
me?
gonna say, any other questions, Dr. Portman?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What I reached, Angela?
Angela.Brott at albertahealthservices.ca. ANGELA.GROTT. Yeah.
Most to thank Dr. Portman from the Hanna Medical Clinic and all the other hosts she sits on, for presentation to Council on Changing Alberta Health Services and the newly formed Attraction and Recruitment Committee. Councillor Kroll. He was standing up. What do I do? And you cut him off twice in the presentation.
I'm standing up, can't you tell?
All in favor? I owed you that one, Fred.
Thank you.
Yeah, I cut you off, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Motion, does everyone have a chance to go through the meeting or minutes of the meeting from February 11th? Okay, motion to accept the adopted minutes as presented from February 11th. Councilor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Minutes from the information session on February 26, 2025, the adopted is presented. Councilor Thurl, all in favor? Carried. Accounts payables. Anything jump off the map? Councilor Warwick?
I have a question just in regards to 03838 and now I don't have the other one.
Yeah, let's address the one first.
Well, they both relate to the same thing, and I guess that's where I'm questioning that they're both bottled water pellet. one at, a cost of $709 and the one at $852. So one, was to K&D Enterprises. And the 03838 was a different location. So I guess my question is, do we buy bottled water pellets from two different places? For two different, like, I'm just
That was
wondering.
a one-off with, the fire department had, David Moore had a pellet water that he had purchased it for, I believe, a course. And then the fire department bought it off of him for that.
Okay,
So that was
And
just
so-
a one-off for that one.
okay,
So usually we get cases of water from the grocery stores.
okay, yeah, I guess the other one was from. Was I think from Freezing Buzz. Okay, thank you. I noticed the two names and I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of odd
Yeah,
that we
no,
have the
it
same name and two different entries, but yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Any other questions? Hearing none, council accept accounts payable listings from general account for information. Check 43340 to 43368, direct deposit 003811 to 003886, and electronic transfer 927 to 930. Motion, Councilor Farrell again. All in favor? Carried. Statement of revenue and expense. Questions? Motion accepts statement of revenue and expense for February 2025 for information. Motion. Councilor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Yeah. Budget overview, February 2025. Any questions? Hearing none, motion, Councilor Murphy, all in favor? Carried. Community Services Board, February 5th, 2025. I take it that's Michelle's.
Well, most of it I think is covered in a later agenda item, so I think this is just Councillor Thoreau's basic report on the minutes.
Councilor Farrell,
Oh, we spent 3 hours that night discussing our changes to, or proposed changes to all the rental agreements. And that was about it for that meeting. And we introduced our new member to. So the rest of it will be coming up under
8.011.
Yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Farrell? Who's your new director?
Murray Westcott?
She will be fantastic.
Oh, he was. She made up a lot of new ideas. We're still waiting to have until we nominate our new chairperson.
And okay, senior administrative official report.
Can we have a motion?
Oh, sorry, motion. CSB, Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Donna. CEO, Mr. Matthew.
Yeah, through the chair, I attended the Spring Municipal Leaders Caucus. I did my presentation on AI. Got some good feedback from a couple of municipalities, said they will get in touch because they want to learn how we teach AI our policies and bylaws. So they want to start using that. And, you know, it was positive feedback. It was rushed that day because I had to do that and rush off the AUC. meeting as well after that, so that was a busy day. Yeah, I've reviewed the budget as well. There was a AB Munis put a conference call on regarding that, which I think you've all seen, that the GPOT is increasing from 50% to 75%. Things like FCSS don't get any, well, maybe no more money. So, and then there was a site selection seminar that I attended as well. I also found out today that MPE that helps us with the grant to do the lagoon, that was approved. So, so there was 200,000, I believe, for that. So that's a positive thing as well. As for recreation, it looks like things are winding down at the arena. Ice plant will be turned up at the carnival. They're starting to build the picnic tables. And they've been working at getting the pool ready, going through the manuals and getting ready for all that. Michelle's here. I'll let Michelle talk about hers.
What's the lift at the curling rink?
The floor, I believe they're lifting up the floor as it's sunk in one corner. So it's going to be lifted up. So you can.
Is that to address the issue they had with the outside sheets? Or?
Not 100% sure. I know
I think that was just the heat on that side for whatever reason. But yeah, we talked about a few things with.
Yeah, because that had been an issue a long time ago. So this is another option they're looking at.
Yeah, I don't think it has
actually-
anything to do with the heat or the floor ice.
Yeah.
quality.
Okay.
I think this lift is
Completely.
inside, going into the bathrooms.
Yeah.
In
Yes.
the men's bathroom, because it's getting worse, but they can put stuff to
Oh,
hold it because.
okay. Thank you.
Considered
This is that $10,000 for that wall that's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typing on confidence
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Sure. For my reports, just some days coming up that you may want to note in your calendars. So as you all saw on your desks today, Dagashi Day is tomorrow. So we're doing lots of visiting around town, sharing that on behalf of our friends in Waukee and the supplies they've sent to us. This is our third year doing it. So we're very grateful to have that continued partnership with them. And there's some interest with the school of pairing up with some students in Japan to do a bit of a pen pal type project coming up. So we're just getting coordinated on when their school's out and when our school's out in the right window of time and the right ages of kids to match up. But so it has sparked some interest here of kind of maintaining that relationship. The Spring Community Showcase, which you would formerly known as Registration Fair, is tomorrow night, 5:30 to 7 at the community center. So folks are welcome to come on out and see the groups that have gotten tables that night, what activities they have going on in town. Volunteer appreciation, with the way Easter falls, Volunteer Appreciation Week is at the very end of April, start of May this year. And we penciled in Tuesday, April the 29th for that celebration. So if you want to hold an evening in your calendar, there'll be more details there. We're just working with our partners and on the grant application for that right now. There's a bit of an update there on the transportation project. So we had a February meeting with Links with Primary Care Network to talk about the grant project. So you can see in there since the start in mid-September, there's been 112 local loop rides by 43 unique riders. That's, I'm sure, increased over the last month. Under Drive Happiness, they've had 5 new riders and 1 successful recruitment of a driver, which those are hard fought, so we'll celebrate that. And so now that the local loop's kind of in its regular routine, they're working on focusing on the Drive Happiness side of things. So they've met with the Ministerial Association to talk about what Drive Happiness is. They know that there's lots of members of congregations that already do a lot of this work, you know, helping shuttle people around. And so encouraging them, you know, would you consider signing up to officially be a Drive Happiness driver, talking about, you know, the benefits with the grant, that we can provide some compensation at no cost to the riders. There's that background check and insurance coverage component. So they're looking at, you know, who's already doing this in our community and could we encourage them to get on the official list and make them more broadly available. So they're working on that. I know they're coming to the community showcase tomorrow night as well. So there'll be the ability for more folks to talk about that. Kind of adjacent to that, also the grant project there had some funding towards training opportunities. So if people are interested in becoming drivers with Drive Happiness, there's going to be some opportunities for things like first aid, fault prevention, elder abuse awareness, things like that, that they get for free. So if someone's looking for a bit of a resume builder and some free training, if they're signed up with Drive Happiness, they'd get some of those perks as well. And then just a kind of adjacent to that was our old handyman. So council had met and said that you guys were looking for a free home to pay it forward. So our first stop in that conversation was with Lynx to see, as their partner on the transportation project, it made sense to start with them. They've decided that they're going to decline. It's just not the right fit for them and their project at this time. So my next course of action is to kind of take it to our Hanna interagency group. And then from there, if nobody local to Hanna was interested, to go to our regional FCSS for East Central and see if there'd be another community that's looking for it. So by your next meeting, I'll have kind of an update on where we are in that process. Any questions from anyone?
I had a guy contact me this morning that needs a handyman, so I phoned Matthew and asked him if it would be for sale as such, and he said, I'd have to talk with you tonight.
And so I guess my understanding of council's direction so far was to look for a community group for free. I guess if the direction is to pivot to private sale, then we just need to know that so we know which route we're going down, I guess.
So don't derail you.
I just need to know so I don't offer something we don't have.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, I've already made contact with Sandy Benedict, because she's still at 2020. And I think that's probably the way it's going to go. Just due to the fact that it's new.
So he's maybe found a new connection and is good to go then. Perfect. So am I hearing that we should continue to look for free? Okay, perfect. I will keep looking for a free home for it. I'm sure as we cast the net wider, we'll find a community that wants it. We just want to start super local to hear if there's a need for it. So, but of course, maintenance and insurance being what they are, any organization looking at it just has to look at those long-term operational costs.
Perfect. Lori.
Just a couple of things I want to bring to your attention or point out from my report is that the ECA review is closing its doors here shortly, which I'm sure that you've all heard by now. So I will be bringing back our advertising bylaw because we do make reference to that for our statutory advertising, that it go into newspaper. That's the word I'm going to use because that's what it is. So that's going to take a little bit of research in terms of what the requirements are in the MGA, but I will come back to you with that. I'm hoping April, but it may not be until May.
So would Drumheller be the closest or Stetler?
I'm not sure that's we can look at that. I'm not sure if that's money well spent
Yeah, I don't know where else there wouldn't be any other.
Coffee break.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
can
can
break
break, but is that?
I'll come back with options for council. Yeah. I mean, if I go back to when we went through this process before, was the same elected officials, assuming that your opinions on where the dollars should go hasn't changed and if the dollars available, and come back with some options. We've been pretty good about getting a decent lifespan out of our tech equipment as a whole, not just the computers and the laptops, but we have many switches and access points and one file server, but good redundancy. The negative side of that is that the world changes faster than we do. And so now we have a whole bunch of computers in our inventory that will no longer be supported by Microsoft's Windows program come October. So I just wanted to give you the heads up as I do some planning and juggling. I'm certain that there will be a spring budget adjustment on that line of our budget in the spring.
And so Lori, I have to always ask the question in regards to, would we be able to purchase any of that new equipment, computers, et cetera, locally?
We buy them 100% locally, have for years.
Thank you.
Unless there's any other questions, that is all I wanted to bring to council's attention this evening.
I do have a question. So those, would there be any that would still be less than the 8 years where the programs would still be serviceable?
It's Windows 10
Right.
to Windows 11. So Windows 10 would be supported, so it
No, I
shouldn't be
realize-
used by anybody anywhere.
No, I realize that, but is there anything that you're replacing that is still able to be functional and supported and such, or not just those particular ones?
I'm not understanding the question. As long as the computer is functional, I bump it down the line. So
Okay,
it might leave my desk and go to the pool, for example.
Right,
So it could go to 2 or 3 different desks before we take it out of commission.
yeah,
That's why we're in this position.
well, exactly. And so I was just wondering if you had any that would be left over that perhaps could be, over at the school. That would be done, or
No, we
Second
have to
percent.
purchase
There's
it.
better stuff.
Yeah, the school doesn't,
yeah,
the school
Yeah.
doesn't want our stuff. We've
Okay,
looked down
yeah.
that road before. There's nobody that wants our stuff,
because it's
with the exception of perhaps,
the library.
no.
No.
We get, sorry, we
About-
get
Better stuff.
the crap that the school board doesn't want anymore. And we dance the jig because it's a huge improvement on what we have. So. Go ahead.
Sorry.
I know a few years ago, Bowerstone was doing like a refurbishment type program for people in the community that they were finding would maybe need a piece of technology that just didn't have the dollars to go and buy one.
Yeah.
The thing is, I pull the hard drives out because there's data on there.
Yeah.
that is just sick if it got out anywhere. So I pull those hard drives out. So if somebody's gonna spend that kind of money putting in a hard drive and a operating system, they might as well get
Yeah, no, just a thought, my
computer.
apologies.
So as much as I'd like to, I sometimes will strip out components if I feel they've got a little bit of life, but there's usually
Okay.
no life.
Kevin will roll your hard drives for you, by the way. You know, if you have any. He drills a hole through them.
Yeah, we can do that in house.
That works too.
Anything else, Lori? Hey, on to Brent. What is Mr. Brent?
Brent and Wes are on a training course all this week. Was it Banff?
Water
Yeah.
water conference in Banff.
We're studying hard.
Words.
Raining like crazy.
In that? Gee, that's great. I'm going skiing. I think that's.
Any questions on Brent's report? I know we've had a few humps and bumps and heaves reported on Facebook. I know Brent has addressed a couple of them. It's spring of the year and they mysteriously come around quite regularly, unfortunately. So it's one of those things we just kind of, I hate to say it, but put up with it. We're still good to go on the overlays and pioneer pulsar, Matthew.
Yeah, I think we're still good to go.
Okay. And the bridge is still
Still on the plan. We're good.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing else on that report? So can we get a motion to accept the senior administrative officials report 8.01 to 8.03 as presented for information? Councilor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Nine point zero one, taxation report.
I guess Matthew wants me to talk.
I was at your Matthew was looking at me. I believe this is what you call delegation.
Delegation, he does delegate well, doesn't he? Yeah.
So this is just your year-end report for 2024 showing what the taxes were outstanding as of August 31st, and then at the due date, what the penalties were that we placed on September 1st and October 1st at the 4% on the current levy only. And as of December 31st, 2024, the outstanding taxes were $149,639.58. So there's the reference to the last 3 years there. It fluctuates, it goes up and down. homeowners are sent letters in September saying you did not pay August 31st, and a penalty will go on. And then they are also sent letters in December saying if they don't pay that, there's a penalty that goes on January 1st. So we communicate with them as much as we can, try to get people on pre-authorized monthly payment plan is a really good program to be on. And if they are in arrears, we work with them to get caught up.
And that's just for the 24 taxation year, or is that anything carrying forward from before?
That is everything delinquent and
Okay.
arrears. Yes, yeah.
Councilwoman?
I was just wondering, during COVID, the rates were dropped. Is there any appetite to put the rates back to where they were as far as the interest, or it's not really, doesn't
We kept them at the 4%. That would be something that the council wanted to look at to increase them again. They would bring back, but we haven't really explored it too much.
I guess if they can't make it at 4%, well, if they can't make it now, 1% is probably a little bit more attractive for them to want to than not, I guess. Yeah, no, just a question. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think overall it's not too bad a number. I realize 150 grand would definitely help out, but it's not gonna make or break this thing.
Yeah.
Looks like it's the highest it's been in 4 years.
Yeah.
But before 2021, I just can't remember. Have we ever been lower than 2022 at the 75,000? Or is that kind of?
That seemed like fairly low.
Yeah, it did.
The lowest
Just
ones.
makes me wonder what was happening. I mean, that was kind of 2 years into COVID, and it just makes me wonder.
Nobody could do anything, couldn't spend any money.
Right, so it was, yeah, I don't know.
Well, when your taxes become delinquent and we go through the tax process to put you on the tax arrears list, then those have to be paid off. So that's where we get into a program to get the delinquents paid off, but then by that time, there's another group of arrears that cover wise. So we do work with people to definitely get them down.
So we can do, thank you. And it's pretty decent given the numbers that you're dealing with them.
Motion that council set the 2024 taxation report for information. Councilor Murphy, all in favor? Carried. Community Service Department fees and charges.
All right, so it's that lovely time of the year again where the Community Services Board has met to review fees. When I met with council at info session in the fall, you guys had expressed that you thought this was still a valuable exercise to have this brought back to you. Trying a little bit of a different layout, so you guys can let me know after tonight if this helps, instead of just getting information via fire hose, that there's a little bit of some of the logic that was applied by the board at the meeting to kind of help walk you through that process without you having to come on our whole 3-hour adventure. So this was included in your package. So we've met and reviewed the fees. In looking at the fees, we considered comparable facility pricing in neighboring communities, time since the last increase to a specific fee, user capacity for increases, and cost recovery of the facilities. We also gave consideration to the fact that we do have a robust subsidy programs such as Kids Sport, the Hanna Community Youth Fund, Prescription to Get Active, and the Provincial Hosting Grant that provide opportunities to further reduce fees for residents and organizations who qualify. So we started with revenue and expenses, looking at that cost recovery piece and talking with Matthew of kind of that goal of could we get all of our facilities above a 30%, it's kind of a starting point on cost recovery. So we looked at just the 2024 revenue and expenses to look at that. So we didn't do a 5-year average or anything like that. It was just last year's numbers. And the facilities that were identified to be under that 30% cost recovery were our ball diamonds, soccer fields, and the community center. So with that in mind, that's sort of where the board decided to start tackling how do we start this process of looking at fees. So when we looked at the ball diamonds and soccer fields, we looked at the adult fees. So you'll see there's a game, a day, and a weekend rate, and suggested increases to each of those, as well as the adult season rate. What they didn't make any changes to or propose any changes to is the $2,500 per season rate for minor ball and minor soccer. We talked earlier today about there being less babies born in Hanna than there used to be. That also means there's less kids playing soccer and ball than there used to be. And just in the spirit of keeping those fees reasonable for those organizations, they wanted to see the youth rate stay the same, but those adult rates change.
Is there any reason to the percentage of increase? Some of them are, I believe the other town, if my math is right. I was looking at 50% increase for the adult out of town. Is that not kind of, any opportunity of bringing other teams into the community to rent our facilities is kind of not going to be there if they're out of place? So, like you said, how does that compare to other areas?
I don't have the comparable to the neighboring communities for the ball diamonds with me. I could get that information for you. I think they looked at the $52 for a game and said, in the spirit of easy math, everything we've been trying to roll to an even number as we do increases and get us out of nickel and dimes and odd numbers. So they looked at with 60, from $52 for a game to 60 be reasonable. And then thinking for a day, if you're paying the rate of 2 games, but you get the whole day of whatever you can fit in, and then 2 days for a weekend, you can kind of get your third day or your Friday night thrown in for free, was sort of the logic of how they came to those numbers. And then looking at the season rate for our slow pitch league at this point, or if we had men's fastball again or any other adult league, they sort of looked at dividing that out. You got 10 players on a ball team, you're currently paying $45 a piece for your entire season, would bumping that up be a hardship to anybody if you had to pay $52.50 for your season of slow pitch. You have a minimum of 10 players, possibly more on your team. That's spread over all those spring months that you're playing ball. Your cost per game gets pretty reasonable in a hurry, was their rationale on that one. Do you guys want me to move through the rest of them and take questions before you? Yeah.
I was just looking at, so the ball rate, so is that for 3 diamonds or is that per diamond?
That is per diamond, I do believe, the way that's written.
Okay.
And then that is also, I guess, where, if an organization was hosting a provincial tournament, we do have that grant where we give them that gifting kind of facility as well. So for some of those bigger things that might be looking to come in, we do have a process for that, for them to get some subsidy. If there's no more questions on ball and soccer, I'll dive into the community center. The community center is the worst offender on cost recovery, was my fun learning of going through this process this year. We're at 20% cost recovery for 2024. I think there was the feeling at the board that that's an area where we should be able to stomach some increases, that, we're competitive with other areas. There's lots of people that come from, surrounding communities that get married here because the hall is cheap, that sort of thing. So they proposed their changes there. So again, going from $655 to $700 for a full facility daily rate, bumping the wedding package for the weekend that has that early start time and extended cleanup time to the $1,500. The service club rates, that's an annual rate for 12 meetings a year, so a slight increase there up to $400. And then the community kitchen rate from $35 to $50.
So how many service clubs do you have that are meeting on a regular basis?
Elks is in there on a regular basis. I don't know that anyone else utilizes that rate at this time.
I brought up that rate because I discussed it with our club, and they're easy to, they said that was great because
Putting back in.
they give us a few bonuses throughout the year, once in a while we borrow this and that, so they said it works out.
Having the Elks Savannah in the room helped make that one an easy one to say, all right, if you're telling us when you're good for it, so.
So with the wedding package or I was being the facility rate, I've had numerous people mention that it's expensive. I personally don't find it expensive. That's I've always been a firm believer in you're better off to have 2 at $1,000 than 1 at $1,500. That's just some thoughts that have come to me from numerous people. And I understand, I get the numbers, I know it's weak and everything. I just the utilization part is
there's always a tipping point there of that. So when we looked at comparable, I guess, facilities within town and comparable neighboring facilities, so we are lucky here that we do have kind of a staggered step down of facility sizes. We don't own them all, but there's that, do you need a community center event? Do you need a Legion event? Do you need a Lions Hall event? That we do have those options at a range of prices. Some of the ones that get brought up often of being cheaper options in the neighborhood, or say Hand Hills, Delia, some of those. And we talked about the fact that they're not apples to apples comparable, of the fact that those communities don't have a hotel for you to stay, for your guests to stay in if you're hosting a function. They don't have, you drive home issues and things like that for some of those places. So that, just kind of keeping that in mind when you're looking at that amount on those. And then of course, just balancing, like you said, there is the tipping point where you make it too expensive, you drop utilization, you don't make any more money, but balancing that with which portion of this should be taxpayer subsidized.
I'm on board with it. I'm just feeding back what's been pushed to me a few times, so.
Yeah, we had that discussion, like, we could slash the prices even cheaper, but the problem is, how are you going to get any more functions? That's the whole thing. It's just.
Yeah, no, I'm game to try it for a year and see how it works out.
That's what we said, it's just one thing. If it doesn't work, then
I get the impression that most communities have significantly increased because the costs of running them has gone up. So at the end of the day, I think, again, Hanna continues to be extremely competitive with the pricing. And I think it's going to be just fine.
And Michelle, I just, when you talk about the weekend package, what does that, is that like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
I believe that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe it is, you get the community center at noon on Friday for your walkthrough to start your setup for your function. And then Sunday, I believe it's 3 p.m. You have to be out by on those. So you get that cleanup time the day after your function. And we call it the wedding weekend, but I do believe it's available for booking for concert or whatever else you might be bringing in at that rate, is my understanding of that. That's kind of that bonus. So you're paying for the Friday, you're paying for the Saturday, Sunday, and you get your little bonus of, you get in early on Friday and stuff there with that package and it's full facility. So those were the ones that were big targets on the cost recovery conversation. And then the rest of this was looking at, I guess, proposed things from past years of areas that hadn't had increases, or just, kind of some cleanup on some things we saw there. So the first one was just the miscellaneous category, with some slight increases to the folding chairs and picnic table piece of things, just recognizing that these are things that need ongoing replacement and maintenance, and especially on the delivered side of things, staff time is never any cheaper over time. So that's a cost to the town when we do those pieces there. So from $1.50 a chair to $2, $6 to $8 for a self pickup table, and $15 to $20 for a staff delivery table. There was their proposal. Next up was the swimming pool. So when looking at the swimming pool, there was lots of discussion about wanting to keep public swimming affordable. I know it's come to council numerous times of, should public swimming be free? What should we be charging? All of those things. So we do, of course, have some free time slots in the schedule, and I expect we'll see that to continue this summer. But that, when they are paying that daily admission rate or the plunge cards, that there was a want to keep that affordable. So we keep kids in the pool. I think we all like to see it when we drive by that it's full. So encouraging that. The area that they did see some possibility for increase was on swimming lessons. So the rationale was that our swimming lessons do fill quite quickly. We draw people from all sorts of surrounding communities. It's fairly common that, you come back to grandma's house for the week of summer vacation and take your swimming lessons here, so that they felt the market could bear the modest increases of $5 to $10 that they were looking at on those swimming lessons. They wanted to leave the levels that are the lifeguarding courses. They wanted to leave those alone, just recognizing that when a summer student takes all those lifeguarding courses, it takes them a lot of hours working for us to start to earn that back. So they didn't want to touch those ones. So these would just be your swim lessons that are your preschool to, elementary aged kids that are coming in for those lessons that they've got those proposed changes on.
And the two private ones, you want to make money even, like instead of $82.50, let's make it up to $90. And
yeah, it was one of those outliers that hadn't got rounded yet since we started that process a few years back of trying to get things on a little bit more even keel. So when we looked at the arena and curling rank, no changes to the summer season rates. I think we all know that our facilities are a little bit lower demand that time of year. We don't have a lot of clamoring for rentals. Some of the renters we do have come to you guys asking for a subsidized rate already on those. So we didn't think that the market would really take an increase on the summer rates. When we're looking at the winter rates, they had some small increases. So most of these proposals are the same proposed amount that they brought to you in 23 and 24. So this is their third time coming back, that these haven't moved, that they think that it's prudent to have small regular increases to keep pace with increasing costs rather than having to go back to organizations with larger increases that might, give them struggle to catch up depending on their registration rates. So this takes all of the adult fees. We had a regular fee, a tournament fee, an off hours fee, and a non-local fee, or sorry, not the non-local, the local 3, and says those should all be aligned at a 150 per hour. That doesn't really matter how much all cost are we getting. Could we round those all to 150? And then it has that non-local rate at the 200. So a little bit of a bump up that, the locals are getting a deal, but not making it. So we're pricing ourselves out of having people come out. The other big one on here was ladies hockey. So as you guys would remember, ladies hockey came with a drop-in proposal. I believe we waived fees for them the first year, then we went to $10 drop-in. Looking at $10 per player per week and the administration of that, the staffers collecting those funds, it comes to the office to get deposited. There's just a lot of touching those $10 per player per time over the course of a season. The $1,000 per season that CSB is recommending would take some of that admin out. It'd be one payment and likely is actually cheaper for the ladies hockey overall over the course of the season. So it's not necessarily a revenue generator, but more can we move them to a more similar rental structure that we see with some of our other groups that rent per season from us, like say Hanna Minor Ball. And then just some minor increases to the minor hockey and figure skating. Again, these are reflective of the requests that were brought forward in 23 and 24 and not passed. And then the arena booth rental as well. They bumped that up to $600 a month as their proposed amount.
And the reason for that is gas power and everything else that's gone up.
Yep.
It's
Is it normal to discuss any of these anchor tenants beforehand? You have to know.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that would be at council's discretion. Like in that case, you're thinking of minor hockey, I would put on the booth side of things of whether they could weather that of, an additional 115 a month over their season. There hasn't been a discussion to date, so that would be something.
I mean, they're kind of handcuffs. Anyway.
Venue. I do know that, they project reasonable profit, so I don't know if that amount over the course of their season, over 5-6 months that they're open would make a huge difference to them, but certainly a conversation that can be had before the fee was put in place.
Yeah. The other one too is ladies hockey,
yeah,
if one of them is going to flip the $1,000 bill
or have us start a season, sign up, whatever, they are going to put the money in the kitty or how they're going to manage that. I mean, our men's leagues manage it. Obviously all of our minor sports manages it. So just be a matter of somebody being the responsible person that does have to say, I'm collecting for the team.
And what the men's hockey can do it, ladies can have it.
Right, that's kind of what I'm thinking, Kyle, but
do they usually just, give you a check for $2,000 and they're good to go? Or do they do it at the end of the season? How do they usually?
I think they collect
it's a billing question for Winona more so than my department on like so men's hockey. Do they pay us all upfront or we invoice them monthly?
We invoice them monthly.
Because theirs is at the hourly rate, so they don't pay us all that.
Okay.
So we could probably be flexible with ladies as to when that would be due, or if it was staggered in a couple segments.
I don't
for
suspect
them.
they'll get locked out if they.
Yeah.
I think we could probably work with them if that was the route that council chose to go.
You can always lock them in. That'd be funny.
Anything else on the arena? All right, Centennial Place. So small, this looks like a long list, but everything cascades within Centennial Place. When you look at, if you change what a drop-in's worth, it changes what a punch pass is worth. And if you're going to change those, then you should change the season passes that go underneath them. So it's really one really long run-on of the same thing happening. So you'll see on there that the drop-in and punch passes were last increased in 2022. Annual passes, it was prior to 21 when I was involved in the process. I didn't dig back through all the records to find you that exact timing on that. There's no increase proposed to the room rental pricing. I did just put a little blurb in there that tells you what all the passes do. So we have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, as well as the fitness trainer. So those just explain what accesses are included in all those if you were curious on that. When you get into it, so you'll see youth drop in from 3 to 4, the adults from 6 to 7, and the seniors from 5 to 6, which is a $1 increase on each of those. The fitness center drop in was a larger proposed increase, and I do believe that this is what they brought to you guys last year, if not both the last 2 years, as a proposed increase for the fitness center to that $15 a day. And then you see the cascading increases for the passes there. I won't read all of those to you aloud, but you can see, you know, kind of the variance that they're looking to increase those annual passes. So there are questions on those.
The only ones that I disagree with, we'll go back to your same word about trying to make swimming affordable, youth affordable. It's just the top two, the youth drop in and the youth punch pass. I mean, I know a lot of those kids are paying for it themselves too. So these kids that go through there, and to encourage them to use it, yeah, it's only $1. I'd like to see those two stay the same, the youth drop in and youth punch pass to stay at 3 and 30, but the rest is all appropriate.
And I think the reason they looked at the increase there was that swimming is more. I do believe we are 5 currently on a youth admission for swimming. So I think they were saying sure facilities align with some of the rationale there, but certainly could be one that's left alone. If we think that one, you know, it would be a barrier to participation if we increased it.
Yeah, that's pretty well what it was, you know, we didn't really want to do the youth, but we thought if one is here, the other one's down here, like, try to even it out, but.
Could you go 35?
We could, that then puts your drop-in rate to 350, or whether it's worth leaving it at 3 and revisiting.
Yeah, no, just leave it at 3 and then the other go 35. And so then it's kind of even or whatever.
And so typically the punch passes are 10 times those. So it's the 12 punches for the cost of 10 admissions. So if we varied that, we probably want to vary them for all of the punch passes just to make it consistent. So I would recommend if you're staying at 3 to stay at 30, just for ease of administration of that piece of things on there, but certainly one that we could carve out.
See the fitness punch pass on here. I must be missing it.
Or in the bird, you might see it, Lori.
Lower down.
On this part, but maybe not in the policy part.
No, I've got both.
Oh, you got both going. Oh, it's the drop in for the fitness center, so not a punch pass. It's just the drop in rate from 12 to 15.
So our policy currently has 2. It has the drop in plus the punch.
Okay, so a note there that we would need to amend the punch to match that then. So if you were to increase the fitness drop in $15 a day, then the punch card would increase to $150. Good catch, Laura. When I've looked at this so many times, our eyes are crossed. Any other questions on Centennial? Okay, so then Epic Adventures or out of school care is the next one that was up on there. Again, discussion of wanting to keep rates low so families can participate, but keep pace with increasing costs and simplify administration. Of note, I happen to know that these fees haven't moved since 2010 when I was the youth Epic, well, Summer Fun at the time, leader. So I know that these rates have stayed stagnant for quite some time. So I feel like we're probably okay to discuss an increase.
I was waiting for you to say you were in it.
No, I can't go back that far, Danny. I did enjoy when I got my desk going through the archaeological dig of some things from days gone by. But yeah, so I know I set these rates in 2010. So I think we're well within the time frame to start looking at what we need to do. And so looking at this, we've always had a regular individual rate. So you see that $35 a day, $125 a week, and $450 a month. And then we had a family discount. And so if you had 2 children coming, you paid $30 a day instead of $35 a day for your multiple children to come. It's an administrative nightmare, I'll be quite honest. A family pays for the family rate for a week for their 2 children. And then one of their kids has a change of plans or is sick or attend. Going back through and figuring out, okay, so these days they were on family rate because there was more than one child here. And these days they should have been charged an individual rate because actually only one kid came, and families figuring out that math if they have varying schedules for their kids. It's not easy. Parents never know what they're going to pay. Staff spend a lot of time chasing it. So rather than a increase across the board, our recommendation for increasing is to just get rid of the family discount. Everyone pays the individual rate. So it would be an increase to revenue. overall because of that discount going away, but not a huge raising in fees overall. Epic Adventures is eligible for Community Youth Fund coverage as well. So we do have families that utilize that funding to cover a good portion of their summer.
I didn't know they could do that.
They can.
Yeah.
So yes, if you need those services, the forms are here at the office. Last year's notice of assessment for the adults in the household to access that. Currently, Community Youth Fund just raised their maximum per year to match kids sports. So they'll do $600 worth of funding. So you can fund a fair portion of the summer. It won't take care of quite the whole thing, but you can get a good portion. I know in previous years, some families even looked at targeting, the field trip days and using their Community Youth Fund funds. So their kids got to have that out of town summer vacation experience and we're able to cover it that way. So
It's a great program. The grandkids ask every day when they get to register for this year again. So.
we'll be excited to have that. Any questions on Epic? All right, and last up is Fox Lake Park, by far our most profitable, our only profitable rec facility at 140% cost recovery. So I will give Fox Lake Park their kudos there. We've been lucky over the past few seasons to be pretty full out there, so that helps a lot. So these are just some minor adjustments. So the tent rate was set at $20 currently, and there was a feeling that it should align with the other non-service sites, that whether you put a tent in it or whether you put a trailer in it, you're going into an unserviced site, you should pay the $25. So just looking to make that a tent / unserviced, I guess, rather than them be two separate pieces there. And then power and water. This is kind of where we have the new addition of those sites last year. So power only is currently 30. And so there was a feeling that if you had power and water, it should be a step between that and the full service sites with sewer. So they proposed putting that up to 35. So it would kind of be that mid step where you'd have service at 25, you'd have power only at 30, power and water at 35, and full service at 40. Any questions on the rationale behind that?
My mother and father-in-law think the world of your campground.
Yes.
They say it's best value by far, and they can't lose.
Yeah.
You don't have the entry of full service on here. You just have tent, power and water.
So full service, we're not changing, so it's not a proposed
Oh, I
change.
see. Okay, so okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 30, okay.
Yes, so yeah, it's already there. So it's just getting that mid-step separation of you should pay more for the power and water than you pay for just the power was the thought process there.
And those are in line with all special areas ones all in the area.
Yeah, they're very similar to, like your,
35 power and
Yeah.
water.
yeah, so we're on par with Prairie Oasis as our closest competition, I guess, of a municipally run campground. So I think we're in a fair spot there for those.
I've got a question that,
Sites that are power only.
The power only would then stay at $30. So it'd be power only at 30, power and water at 35, full service at 40.
so just because we are making money on Fox Lake Park, do you think this would be a deterrent in any way? The fact that we are busy, is it based on the rates at all?
That I don't know. I think it's just been need in the area. We've had work crews for a lot of the last couple of years. So that's, gives you kind of those anchor tenants that never leave. They're usually chomping at the bit, calling to ask when we're going to open and how late we'll stay open. So I think that's definitely helped the bottom line revenue. But we are competitive with other campgrounds in the area. So I think we're a fair choice and people seem to like it. I mean, it's a well-developed park with the trees and all of that side of things. That's a positive for us for sure.
I just wouldn't want people not to pick us or Fox Lake because, $5 increase in.
They can't be cheap. It's such a scam. It's so expensive. Yeah. I do it all the time.
Yeah, me too. But it's not, you're not there because
Yeah.
yes, and I would say we're, as Danny mentioned, pretty low compared to a lot of other places for the services that we have and the style of campground we have, right? You're not on a asphalt pad 2 feet from your neighbor, right? We have a fairly well-developed campground.
If I'm not mistaken, power and water instead, they're $60.
Yeah.
There's lots of places that are definitely higher than us. I say we're in an okay spot for this, with just these minor tweaks.
Well, and that's fine. I don't anticipate having the same volume of crews as we've had in the last few years, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we find the balance point, and even if that comes back down in their cost recovery, they have a long way to go before they're under that 30% base threshold that we're looking at. So I have faith in Fox Lake. They'll be all right. And I believe Derbyshires are scheduled to return again as our camp attendance. Is that correct? So yeah, so I mean, I think people like that too, right? I think the people make it the difference too, so. So that's the end of my list of reviewed fees. I guess we take council's discussion and direction from here of what you want to approve.
I'm gonna go ahead and just make a motion to leave the Fieldhouse youth drop-in and youth punch pass the same at 3 and 30. That would be the only change that I'd like to see there.
Before changes.
Well, because hockey never got an increase at all last year or the year before.
Correct.
So for 2 years and might be not the most expensive, but it sure costs a lot to heat and clean and all this other stuff within that. So at least the amount that's being proposed on that. So I'd like to see it a lot higher. And I'm not very motion.
Do we need a motion based on?
I was just gonna say, motion, feel that's a motion call, so.
Yeah, motion to amend it to leave.
Motion with Matt.
I can second. Oh, we don't need a
Second for 7 years.
I was gonna say, that's kind of a weird step. All in favor of of amended proposal?
What?
Thank you.
It's been a long day already.
So this is approved with the 2 amendments that. Next.
I'd like to thank the community service board for work they put forward in this thing. It's neat to see it from a different standpoint, basically.
Yeah, and any feedback of if this worked well for you guys, if this sort of a summary or how you'd like to see it in future years, just let me know before we get to this crux next year. Those of you who are still plan to be with us then, and yeah, we can always adjust the
Yeah, it's
process.
such a magical juggling act, utilization versus cost.
Yeah.
This is very well done. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion to, do you need a motion to accept that? We already got that done, right?
I just want to be on the ball. I'm just not sure which ball to be on.
Need some humor in our lives.
Some scrolling to my age.
County's real estate agents,
Through the chair on, the town issued an RFP for real estate services on January 15th with a submission deadline on March 3rd. When that deadline came, we had just one real estate agent that expressed interest in doing this. She submitted her proposal, which is attached. She seems quite qualified to do the job and represent the town. So the recommendation is that we enter into a contract with they're called Real Estate Center.
you see no questions?
I do have a question,
carry
actually,
on,
just
go for
sorry. Just in regards to it, so we only pay them commission on the properties that are sold. There's
Yeah.
no other honorarium or per diem.
No.
And I have another question then. Approximately how many times in one given fiscal year would we use a real estate agent, just on an average? Just it's like once, twice, depends. Some years are we not using them at all for several years in a row.
And last year was probably, I think, 4 or 5 times that we sold property. Okay, and used them.
In the other years, we haven't sold any.
And then there's years where there isn't anything, so, yeah.
And so they're just readily available whenever we need them and they just, yeah.
Yeah, we just
Do their
contact them
job
with
is
their
to-
property and.
She
We
will
don't
list
have
it.
requests of them, they.
They will list on MLS. They
Yeah,
will do all that work for us. They will take people to show them the property. They'll do all.
And
the
so they're only making commission on the sale of
Yeah,
these properties.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask a question? Just regarding property and stuff, how many lots are still left on Building Place?
I think there's only a couple of lots left that the town owns.
Okay.
So we actually sold here 2 in the last month.
Oh, no, that's not all.
And then a developer owns 5. So, yeah.
No, well, thank you. I heard that there were some, there was another one that sold, so another 2 that's been there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can we get a motion that have the town of Hanna enter into a contract with the real estate center for provision of real estate services for a 2-year term ending March 31st, 2027. The town reserves the right to extend the contract for a period of up to 1 additional year. Motion. Councilor Thurl twitched first. All in favor? Gary. You guys are hard today.
See, I'm blocking the sight line down.
You usually get left out. So.
Yeah.
RFP for audit services. Matthew?
Through the chair again, our current contract is expired with the Send LLP. So we should send it another RFP to look to contracts, audit services. So we're just looking for people to go ahead and issue an RFP for that.
It's something we have to do, so motion.
Oh, actual question. So how often are these for? The 2-year, 5-year?
Does it say here?
It doesn't say.
So the last one,
I'm asking.
the last one was 5 years.
I think it was actually, yeah, somewhere.
Okay.
With changes within the last few years, there are certain qualifications, I think, that are required. Yeah, and locally Ascend, to my knowledge, used to be the only one that was able to do municipal audits.
And I know a lot of municipalities are struggling to find somebody to do their audit because those people have moved on to other jobs, positions. So there's a lot of struggle for municipalities to find somebody.
So your motion to approve administration issue a new RFP for audit services for the town of Hanna for the covered, no, I was gonna say, we're gonna need to amend that to a term.
Yeah.
Term of Councilor Bowden, do you have an idea what you'd like to put in for a term?
Well, what did we have last year then?
Well, I believe it was a
Last one
5-year
had
term.
5 years.
I'm going off memory, but I believe it
Yeah,
was a
but-
5-year term.
5 or 4, like whatever is more convenient. Like,
If you do it now, it takes it into the last year of the next term, which seems reasonable that the council of the day can make a decision whether they want
For the next council.
Well, the timing's kind of bad, really, but, I mean, you could do a 1-year term.
If
now
we do
and
a
they could put-
5-year term and then it takes them into the next, their first year of that next. Let's go with
let's go
5-year term.
5-year
I
term.
think.
I have a feeling too that if we don't do a 5-year term, it might be more beneficial for us, but if we don't, they might say, no, they don't want to.
Well, if we try to chance out on a 1-year.
It takes some amount of time to,
There's a lot of homework to do for sure.
for sure.
Well, and
So-
maybe depending on those that put in an application may have some negotiations, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to amend the motion to council approve administration issuing an RFP for auditing services for the town of Hanna covering a 5-year contract period ending, yeah,
30.
Yeah.
2030.
23rd. I definitely want.
Okay, all in favor of motion? Okay.
That's what I was voting.
We're right on the fingers and toes.
You made that
I think so.
So now he knows he can just put in a vague and just get it approved.
We got it down.
When it it doesn't say when it expires, it
I
doesn't
did
say.
these late at night after the conference.
Okay, the next one is the distribution pump for the Henry Kruger. This is one we really don't have much choice on. Council approved the purchase of a replacement distribution pump at a cost of $60,735.60, with $50,000 allocated from planned reserve contributions and the remaining balance to be recovered from existing budget. Motion. Council Murphy, all in favor? Council Cole? Thank you. See, I'm paying attention. Council roundtable reports. Councilor Kroll handed his out tonight. Anything to add?
Oh, yeah. We have a big country waste management, commission meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in Youngstown, special areas.
Okay. Councilor Roden.
Yes, I attended a Harbor Sky, economic development, meeting today, and, with Councillor, Warwick. And so there is some sort of development within the, special areas industrial park. There were 8 lots to begin with. I believe 2 have been somewhat committed for. Maybe 3. And then 1 is in the works as it is for 4 lots. And then I think that leaves 2 or 3, 2 left. Yeah,
Awesome.
that is my number. Yeah. No, I just couldn't-
Good teamwork, guys.
Yeah.
That's right. If it was
Those are signed off commitments or there may be.
There's just one left.
They're working on, they're not signed off yet, and I'm not telling any other information, but, they're very promising and, I think, Mr. Trout is looking at signatures shortly with the other ones. So that is, quite exciting. I, also did my, questioning, I guess, or was questioned with the AUC regarding the landowners group regarding PACE, and I think that went okay. And I think it was interesting to see that there were 3 lawyers against the solar farm project and then the one for, and that was the one for on behalf of PACE. And AUC did their questioning as well, which was quite interesting to hear some of their questions. And we should find out within 90 days.
Are you speaking as a citizen or are you speaking as a counselor? Because you're not supposed to speak as a counselor on that topic. We were legally told not to. That's why I haven't said a word since. So.
Is it all over?
It's all fine. It's just,
it's
it
over.
could cause you some
Hearings.
No, but
there could be some serious issues.
It's over.
Jimmy's gonna come to the next meeting.
Yes.
I guess if I do get in trouble, I guess I do. And that is all I'm saying.
Okay, Councilor Warwick. Something you'd like to share?
Sure, if it is or not.
Actually, no, I'm bound by secrecy. So I'd love to share.
Just see what notes and it's.
I know, just with
We're not in
the
school
Harvest
anymore.
Guy, there's some things on the, that are, they're working on right now, but nothing solid. So we have shared what there is. So I've made my notes. I also participated in the Spring Municipal Leaders Caucus, which I always say it's probably one of my most favorite conferences of the year. Just, we had the ministry there, the dialogue that they provide, and the premier was also there. I guess the biggest thing that they're concerned about is our American allies and what it looks like right now to us as Canadians and Albertans, and they're highly concerned. But I do love what Minister Horner said about a lot of people standing up and asking for more dollars in different departments, and he really said he wanted to call this Buckle Up 2025. But he said that he would thoughtfully consider, he did use a certain word here, what people were asking for. But quite frankly, there's nothing more to give out. So we're not getting anything. We have to be settled on what we have and the dollars that have been given this year. And that's where it's going to lie for this next fiscal year. So anyhow, that was I really enjoyed that conference once again. So it was well attended. This was probably the biggest or the largest amount of people at the spring summit that there's ever been. And they mentioned that too. So, and it was probably because the budget, 2025 budget, and probably what is happening with the United States of America. So, that might have been a drawing card. I'm not sure.
I think it was my presentation. but I
Oh,
could be
yes.
wrong.
And I will give some accolades to, our CEO. I did not get an opportunity to sit in his session, but, I did have some great dialogue with some individuals and some older gentlemen that were like, we don't need this. It's, and they sat in the session, they took home, a lot of value in it and realized they did need it. And therefore they were going to take the next steps on really learning about AI, based on the world we're moving into. And they thought you did a very good job in presenting what you did. So thank you for the time and energies you put into that.
I had a heckler too on the front row.
I wasn't sure if I sit in the back and don't sport or I sit in the front sport. I did not. I smiled lots to give him a couple of these. The best part was he's standing up there and he's can't see the screen and I'm shaking my head and he's, oh. So we had to have some technical difficulties, but overall, it's kind of interesting, the whole AI thing. Matthew kind of got put in a bad spot. He was the first one. He had a very short time frame to deliver his presentation. And of course, there was some little technical glitches here and there, but got to talk to a couple of people, as Councilor Warwick did, and pointed him to our spoof ups we've done with the AI council meetings. And so there's a lot of interest, and it's a neat technology. And I thought Matthew did quite well, and then he ducked out immediately after. It was easy here to understand that, but yes.
Yeah, some of the farmers there were a little upset because when they went into it was totally different.
Yeah.
AI.
I may as well finish mine up. I did go to the Emperor of Japan's birthday party. The Consul General from Japan actually mentioned the town of Hanna as a sister city, and once again, it was a really great experience to go to. It was a kind of a mini trade fair almost. They had several different partners that they grouped with. WestJet was one. They had I've learned that I do not particularly care for Japanese wine or sake was okay. Speaking of sake, their wine tastes a lot, or the tea tastes a lot like sake. But no, it was a really good experience, and yeah. But other than that, we've got our Chamber has our AGM tomorrow night, so it sounds like everybody's got a very, very busy night. Chamber did some neat things this year. We've adopted calling all the members and just asking them, come and see what we're doing, introduce them to our new office manager. And as Councilor Cole indicated, we've got the meeting with the Big Country Waste. They're going through some growing pains as well right now with occupational health and safety. And so it's a tough road for a lot of people right now. So we're just buckling down and doing the best we can. I've got a meeting on the 18th with the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group and John Heller again. We're supposed to have a little presentation on the Adderley Dam. I believe we've been forwarded $2 million to carry on with the preliminary, I don't know what you'd call it, development stage, I guess is what you'd call it. And with anything, it takes a long, long time to do anything. I found out that the Adderley Dam was actually first talked about in 1906. So it's interesting when we talk about time, takes time. When Minister Horner was the ag minister, he actually brought us a presentation 3 years ago about the Adderley Dam. And we all kind of rolled our eyes and said, okay, but it looks like it's coming to fruition. Adderley is just located to the east of Delburn. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's one of those projects that we'll see to start. I don't know if we'll ever see the fruition of it, our group, but yeah, it's a very interesting project. So that's all I've got. Councilor Olson.
No, my report's in there, your worship.
Anything special?
No,
Herb?
everything I go to is special.
Herb.
No, nothing of note.
Golf course, all pumped up, ready to go.
Yeah, everybody wants to get out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty itchy.
Yeah.
I won't lie to you, I walked down the end of my block and took a peek, there's quite a bit of snow there, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's useful.
Yeah, actually, looks like the Douglas are all filling up quite well. Murphy,
Had my library, I haven't had much else. It's been a difficult month with family emergencies. Library board yesterday, a reminder that Friday, 11 to 2 is library day and pie day. So if you want some free pie and it's open house, please come by and see all the amazing things that they're doing. And that's the only thing I have for you, Mr. Mayor.
perfect. Councilor Thurl,
Oh, I attended, the AUMA. I got surprised that CBC did an interview with CBC and,
You did?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And then right after that, I got interviewed by, another young gentleman there, and it's amazing,
So was it on TV or radio or?
the one was a podcast, it was 2 days that they're only wanted really to know what we're doing about Nickelback and everything else. CBC, they were interested in what our town had to offer, for tourism and stuff, so the museum, the roundhouse and all the other stuff in town, so awesome. I said, holy smokes, I had to keep up here with our CAO there, he's signing autographs, I hear.
motion to accept council reports for information, Councilor Crowell.
No.
Oh, you had
I had
some
something
ads?
to say, and Vern mentioned, Councilor Thurl mentioned, Nickelback. Saturday night, I got a phone call about 1:30 in the morning. A bus had broke down just out here 7 miles, I guess, and, needed a ride, back to town, like all the passengers did. There was 40 passengers on there, and I said, my bus only holds 20. Oh, well, it'll work, no problem. So I went out and 27 of them got rides by kind of hitchhiking. Guys going by, they stopped because the bus was, parked on the side and this and that. Can we help you? Yeah, you can give us a ride. So they all end up at Canalta. And, when I picked up my load, I came into town and I says, they were talking about Nickelback and this and that. And I said, I'll give you the tour of town. I said, I'll show you, this and that. So I did. I took them up by the arena, around all the artwork there. And then I took them around the front of the Centennial Place and showed them our jump statue. And they were totally impressed. And then I went down by the library and, circled around there. And then I said, you guys really want to see where Chad lived, Oh, that'd be so neat, yeah. So I did, I showed him around town and
You
then.
stopped at the liquor store.
Yeah.
Oh, it was all too late by then.
He broke into that one and that one and that one.
And then, anyways, I went past the dental office and told them that's where the old National was and that's where the village idiots got their start,
Yes,
right, right, yeah. It was just amazing, they were so thankful, that I went and got them and took them on that little tour.
And where were most of them from? Were they?
They were all from Medicine Hat. They were in Red Deer for, I don't know if it was the provincials or zones or whatever, but it was 13 and under. But it was all full of adults, like there was more adults than there was kids, because parents and two of them would go and stuff. Yeah, it was really good.
Were they heading back to Medicine Hat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Bus broke down.
they had enough room at the Canalta for everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Councilor Bowden,
Just the Hanna Colts 13 and under won the banner
Mhm.
for their tier, and then I think they go on to the next one.
U15 won theirs and the U18 won theirs. U18 are on their way to a 3-team round robin to see who goes to provincials.
Awesome.
The U15s played down a tier, and so their season is done, other than I believe they have a tournament this weekend. They're playing in Camrose, I believe it is. Yeah, I know our hockey did really well this year. I was at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look very promising. Coaching got to our U18 is actually kind of a funny story I'll share with you. They got beat 6-4 here against Three Hills, and then went and beat Three Hills 9-2 in Three Hills. They lost to arch rival Drumheller 4-3 here, and then went to Drumheller and got the banner in Drumheller, which is kind of a sweet thing. Those of you who don't know, Hanna Drumheller rivalry is very alive, and yeah, so our hats off to our minor hockey group, top and bottom. So,
Mr. Mayor, just before you close, I
Yes.
know this is almost irrelevant, but there's a really interesting thing. I obviously spent a little bit of time in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico in the last couple of weeks. And while I was there, I ran into this individual, he's wearing glasses in one of the food courts. And we were just commenting on him, and another colleague of his came up behind and said, "Oh, that's a friend of mine." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." I said, "Where are you from?" And they're firefighters from Red Deer. There was 9 of them there, and they went there to train the firefighters in Mexico actually how to do their jobs. And so I thought it was just an interesting thing how we collaborate not only provincially, but I mean on a
internationally, yeah.
And
Awesome.
anyhow, yeah, it was quite intriguing, some of the things they
So you're
did.
saying we should send Dave to Mexico?
Well, I would like to. He might not appreciate that.
well, he needs a media support if he's going there.
Exactly.
So we get a motion, council reports for information. Motion, Councilor Thurl, all in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Anything that jumps off the page?
The best thing for us is and they do it every year, is they extend that JIP to the JIPA with getting an agreement with the school board. So I think ever since they first announced it, they keep extending it, but I have talked to the school and we're gonna set something up soon. That's the key thing.
I think that West Met base thing is probably a good thing to get on to, Laurie.
Yeah, we have already.
Okay, perfect, awesome.
Yeah, so those posts to be pushed up.
Nothing for closed session. I will adjourn the meeting at 8 o'clock on the nose.
We have a motion for the, correspondence.
Motion for Council Warwick. Still get all in favor?